Welcome everyone to Expanding Your Consciousness, and today is October 18th, 2022, and our topic is everlasting words of wisdom. And so tonight we're going to share excerpts. We may even have some stories or just whatever comes to mind for people to share. And so what I'd like to do is begin with, it's from T.H. White, The Once and Future King. And when I was in my mid-40s, I was going over to teach for the first time. I was leaving one career and then going into a new career, and that was as an international teacher. And so I was teaching 8th grade Kuwaiti girls, and I was teaching science, which wasn't necessarily what my background was in. Even though in the museum world that I was working in before that, we would do some science-based exhibits. This was more advanced science. And also my teaching degree was in teaching up to grade 6. So it was a little more challenging. So here I am in a foreign country. I'm teaching for the first time. I'm in my mid-40s. And I came across this excerpt and I kept it posted by my computer in my apartment in Kuwait. And I would look at it quite often as I was preparing lesson plans for my class. So here it is. And it's called Learn. The best thing for being sad, replied Merlin, beginning to puff and blow, is to learn something. That's the only thing that never fails. You may grow old and trembling in your anatomies. You may lie awake at night listening to the disorder of your veins. You may miss your only love. You may see the world about you devastated by evil lunatics, or know your honor trampled in the sewers of baser minds. There's only one thing for it then: learn. Learn why the world wags and what wags it. This is the only thing which the mind can never exhaust, never alienate, never be tortured by, never fear or distrust, and never dream of regretting. Look what a lot of things there are to learn.
I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I just, and even now when I look at it, I go, wow, like it's great. Really well.
It's worth reading a couple of times, to tell you the truth. There's a lot to it.
There is a lot to it. Yes. So, and it really helped me through a difficult time. It is, like you said, Barry, it's very, there's a lot of depth to what he wrote. And it did really help me through this transition in my life. Okay.
Ken? So let's think about this a little bit. From that word learning or learn, what does it mean?
I think it's actually taking in information to expand our sense of ourselves and our world. I do think, learning, we're so used to learning as in taking in certain facts and information in a school environment. But really, when I reflect on my life, I think some of the most meaningful learning in my life happened outside of school. From books that I read, people that I encountered. I think even through my teens and into my 20s and that, I really felt, I can remember even thinking then, I'm learning more outside of school than I would learn in school.
So what you said so far is that there is input going into our mind, and it is either reading, which goes in through the eyes, or it's hearing, like you just talked about this brilliant quotation, and so I received it through my ears, and you were reading it, so you, or at least if you were reading it, then that's how you were receiving it. So that's step one. But then is there another step in there? So just receiving is one thing, but learning is, do you have to give it back, or is there an aha moment where you say, oh, I get it. Yes. So it triggers some emotional thing there. Wow, this is great, or whatever. Or, oh, I didn't know that. Whatever it triggers, it gives it meaning. So is that part of the learning process?
I think it does. It has to have meaning. So other people could read this or encounter this excerpt and it would have no meaning to them because maybe their experiences can't relate to it, right? But to me, when I read certain lines in this, it had more meaning to me because I could relate certain life experiences I had to what was written in this excerpt.
And of course, it would have more meaning for you because you're a teacher. So
Yes.
teaching and learning has a kind of a relationship there.
I think learning is recognizing what is true. I think there's truths in the world, and if we can try to come about so that we, when we see them, like in reading that passage, as I went through it, it rang bells, not just one or two, but a number of them. As I always said, yeah, like you said, Kenny, oh yeah, you get it, right? And the whole thing was continuous. Oh, I get that, but it built up to cumulative, whatever. Just that amount. I really enjoyed the whole thing. And when I stood back, it's like anything, a quality, like a poem that you read, you stand back and you say, geez, that whole thing led me to someplace, and I learned from it, right? And if you recognize that truth or whatever it is that they're conveying, that it is true, that's what learning is, I think.
Yes, I think you retain that more, right? You know, when I was teaching science and I'd have to teach, physics and an introduction to chemistry and other things and all that. But I found like for 3 years, some of it wouldn't stick. And it wasn't until years later I realized that some of what we've been teaching kids is incorrect, right? And so at a deeper level, we're not retaining it is because something like you were saying, Barry, about truth, it didn't stick because it didn't seem true.
Right. So that's part of the learning process. You know, can come to some kind of conclusion, or, like Kenny was saying, that aha moment, and somehow you relate it to yourself, right? It matters to you. So there has to be that connection to your, your ability to relate to it. It has to do with how it changes you, or how it could change you, or, there's a conclusion, but it's part of it anyway is a relationship to you and how it matters in your life. And yeah, that's a really good point. Something that's going to stick is something that has meant something to you, relates to you, and it may hopefully stretches you and moves you further along, makes you smarter, more wise. Yeah.
Yes.
So another point that I'd like to make is that we're talking about intellectual learning theories and facts and things that come into in the form of words. But we can also learn how to dance, or how to, in the martial arts, for example, there's a lot of learning involved in training the body to do certain moves. Or I'm thinking of Nadia Comaneci, the brilliant little girl who just blew the world away with her gymnastics. That kind of learning is, I wonder if it's the same or is it different than learning intellectual things where we get an understanding. Does the body get understanding?
Yeah, I think so. It's been that kind of an way of learning how to use your body in a certain way, that it becomes part of like a muscle memory, and you understand it automatically through your body, not so much you're using your brain, but you're not intellectualizing, you're acting. And that's an experience. The more you do it, the more practice you are, and it becomes more natural or easy, or you're not thinking about it, it just happens.
It's your truth. It's what you've learned.
Yeah,
that's what nobody else knows, but only you.
Yeah. I remember going through a specific thing like that, where at that time I was a brown belt in karate. And my teacher took me aside and took these other two people aside, and they gave them these big cushions to punch. and one on one side, one on the other. And so then he said, okay, Ken, you punch this way, then punch that way, and this way, and you alternate back and forth. Start now. So I start, boom, boom, boom. And he says, okay, keep going. Then he walked away and started teaching the rest of the class. And I'm sitting there thinking, how long am I going to be here? Well, I realized, and I had a little bit of macho in me, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to back down. I'm going to get this right. And he kind of knew I had that. So what it was teaching me was how to punch. So even though he had walked away and left me there with these two people who I really liked, these were my friends, and I wasn't going to back down in front of my own friends, somehow I taught myself that there's a certain coordination in a punch. And if you don't have that, you wear out. But when you get that, it actually increases the, I got stronger as I went through it because I managed to learn that particular lesson. So what I'm doing now is I'm writing a book on contemplative meditation. And that experience of punching was a form of contemplative meditation, but I wasn't intellectually contemplating. I was physically punching a couple, these big pads. But I think it's the same in contemplative meditation. You think about the same thing over and over again, some words of wisdom like we just heard. So those are perfect. Then all of a sudden, whoa, I get it. Something clicked. And I think that's what learning is starting off with some wisdom words like Diana just did there. And then we think about it and talk about it and mull it over and all this stuff. And then, whoa, that's brilliant. And some emotional thing hits and it's ours now.
Right. It becomes part of you.
Yeah.
And the really good quotes are the ones that you keep learning from. You takes you to a certain level, and then you keep punching, and your technique gets better. You get deeper understanding, and that's a good analogy and an actual way of learning.
But you were talking about the physical body too, Kenny.
The brain is your
And
physical body too.
you can, yes, and you can learn something just from pushing yourself to do something you've never done before physically. And I will tell you, this happened to me around 2017 when I was doing some Zen meditation, and it was a lay Zen teacher. He organized our group to go to a retreat. Now, when we did our weekly meditations or even at home, but we meet once a week, but, doing it by ourselves and that, we sat for 25, 30 minutes. We go to the retreat and they had an Italian monk, and he had us sit for 90 minutes, 6 times a day.
Whoa.
For 3 days, I did it. Others did it for 7 days. And the first day, I thought, I'll never make it through this. By the third day, I thought, I'm a pro. I could continue, right? But really, that really was a way of stretching your sense of what you can actually do physically, right? And mentally, right? To sit there for 90 minutes.
Have you done it since at all?
No. I think it was having that really tough monk, right?
You'll be starting on the first day, and that's what you got to get over.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that meditation is getting between thoughts and getting into spaciousness and all that kind of stuff, and that's cool. I mean, you can get relaxed, but in my experience, it doesn't work at all as good as simply, like I talk out loud to myself. So, I mean, I'm dealing with something that's arising in me and I'm facing it and I'm talking to myself about it and I'm going through that whole process. And that to me works really well. But I never felt any much of anything when I meditated, except, calmness and that kind
What
of
I
thing.
find poetry does, I get to talk to myself. If I write poetry,
Yes.
is basically just counseling myself. I wrote 2 tonight for you in your
Oh,
email,
good.
Di, if
Okay,
you
that's good.
want to give them a look, but I don't want to be, it might take a couple minutes to read them, or one of them if you like.
Before you launch that, I'd like to just cap kind of what Brent was saying about meditation, and it ties in with Kenny's book he's writing, is contemplative meditation. So you can take a line of contemplation, maybe something scripted, or just something that Brent, like it comes from within you, and you just listen to that. But and then it takes you somewhere. You come, conclusion or a point of meditation.
Okay. Dave, did you want to share?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought Bear was trying to.
Well, I think Barry,
No,
what
I
you
don't
were
want to do
thinking
anything.
is, okay. All right. So Dave, did you want to share your words of wisdom?
Well, they're not mine,
Well, someone.
but words I live by. I just thought of the ones that always come up for me. And one is measure twice, cut once.
Yeah.
And sure, it relates to what I do for a living, but it's more than just carpentry. It's also about, if you're gonna take an action, sometimes it's good to stop and think about it, measure it, just find out what you think you might be getting yourself into. And it, especially if it's an action that is going to be, you're not going to be able to change, or it may be very difficult to change. So just a little bit of reflection before you jump in with both feet. And good.
Never cut too short.
Sorry?
Never cut too short.
Yeah.
That's part of it. Yeah.
Never cut too short. Yeah.
There have been people who thought they were going to get married, but when it came time to get married, they didn't show up.
Right? That's an example, right? They
Yeah.
re-examined it because that's a long-term commitment.
Oh, yeah. That's yeah, you have to really think about that for sure. Yeah. And
Come to think of it, are you guys married?
yeah.
Yes, we are.
Oh, you are. Okay.
And the story is, well, it's a long one. We'll tell it some other time, Brett.
Yeah.
That'll be another.
It's very different. It's a different type of story. It has to do with an African shaman. But anyway, okay. So Kenny, do you have some words you'd like to share?
I have, but I've got to go and find them and look them up and everything. But I write poetry too, based on some inspiration. And my best poem I ever wrote was just a copying, a retranslating of a poem by a Catholic saint. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of wisdom there. But I don't have it right with me here, but I'd love to read that sometime. But I want to hear Bear's poem.
Okay.
Oh boy. That's up to Diane. You want me to quick go through them? I can do that.
Sure, Bear. And remember, it's words of wisdom, right? So it's words to really expand a person's sense of themselves, or, their understanding of reality.
This is a little interesting. If I read a preface to it, it's about my friend who's quite asleep. I've known him out here since 75. And we argue and we battle all the time. He calls me I'm full of shit and all this, but he's very asleep. And I sent you this. If I could quickly read, this is him talking to me. Not sure. Remember what I sent you, Diane, the email just recently about Trudeau? And,
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he says, yeah, not sure there should be vaccination pressure anymore. And deaths are still above the flu, but not by that much. With combination of vaccinations, previously infected people, I think COVID is under control now. Some will die, but not enough more than flu to be pushing vaccinations. If another deadly variant comes around, it will be time to up the vaccinations again. Oh God, but that may never happen. With infections down, it's harder for the virus to mutate. Now, this is his reasoning. As I'm sure you people too are aware that there's good reason for them to do whatever they want and tell us whatever they need us to know. And this is titled Had to Know. Had to know. I thought I'd get a little introspective, try to read my own mind, see what tends to make me tick, to look inside and see what I will or might find. And though, like everybody else, my head's a jumble now and then, as it's hard to find the time to steer it back to where it's always been. And as I sit here and try to decipher the best way to get back to what it is I own, to where I was when this first started, more together than I've known. That wasn't a very good one, sorry. And at times it's needed to come apart from feeling fine, just so you can put things back together the way they've always been, but that takes a bit of time. This is such a long one, and the second one's better. And like most things, there's good reason while one's world might be a mess, especially if you've swallowed some of those red pills and thought to listen to that narrative less and less. As for myself, I've given up, not into TV, radio, and most things mainstream, and I'm comfortable going somewhere else. It may take a bit more energy, but I'll consider it an investment in good health. Because that's got to make a person worry. All the lies we've been told to believe, knowing well it's been best to face them full on, is the only way I know to get some relief. But I know that there are so many still knowing they should wake up to the tyranny that rages on around us, though some never seem to have enough. Is it just that much more easy to be satisfied with the status quo when it should simply leave you with the thirst for knowledge you never knew you had to know? Now that's one. This one's a little shorter, but it's better. Can I quickly read it, guys? Here goes. Stop me if you have to. Through my rhymes, I went and wrote a masterpiece just the other day. I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, but that's just me and my way. You see, I have to give myself a pat on the back now and then, just to feel like I'm getting somewhere with what I wrote there, my friend. As it's just not easy reaching out to try to explain just what I mean, but there's no one else that I can trust to get it quite right, it seems. So on I go, even though I don't have much of a clue, as I've never been much for oration. I guess my pen will have to do. And that now leaves us back here at square one, not knowing whether we need to listen more or just look away and completely come undone. I would think the latter, as there's always a need to fill your head up for your own peace of mind, all that there is for you to heed. So don't give up on yourself, even though hard times, as I will always try to have your back, if not only through my rhymes. That's it. Thanks, guys, for listening.
Hey, thank you.
So Bear, I got a question for you from the first poem.
Sure.
That you alluded to the red pill, and that's, I assume that's from the Matrix, take the red pill or the blue pill.
Yeah.
So I forget which was which.
Oh, okay.
Which one was you
Red
going to
one.
stay?
The red one you take if you want to join them, and the blue one if you just want to stay there. Remember you said you can come with me, take the red pill, and the blue one, if you swallow that, you'll go back to normal. You'll go back to your everyday life.
Okay. So the red pill was the way into the magic world.
Yeah.
The blue pill
That's sort of the signal
back
that
to the planet
you're
Earth.
doing something.
Okay.
If you're red pilling somebody, you're
Yeah.
like the red pill Bulgarian type of thing. If you're red pilling somebody, you're changing their world, or they are changing their world. They're taking a red pill.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? I also wanted to share something with you, and this happened in 2004. My father had passed away, so I'm in Kuwait. I'm just starting as a teacher, and I had to leave to come back to Ontario for my father's funeral. So it was in September. So school was just starting. But also when I came back, I got a bacterial infection, and it was like having a severe case of strep throat. But they actually had to do some minor surgery, right? Like I really thought at one point, oh, this is where I'm going to die. I'm going to die in Kuwait. So the stress of being in a new job, hearing that my father passed away and having to travel back to attend his funeral, and then coming back and getting sick, it was a lot of stress on me. Anyway, at one point, after I got out of the hospital and was returning to work, this American teacher came up to me, and we didn't even work in the same wing of the school. She was actually a teaching assistant, not a teacher, and she worked in the kindergarten level, right? Kindergarten. But I guess she had heard through the grapevine everything that I'd been through. And she walked up to me and she said, "This is for you." And it was a little piece of paper, and this is what she had on it. And it said, "All is well. Everything's happening for my highest good. Out of this situation, only good will come. I am safe." And I kept
Hmm.
that piece of paper until I think it was like just shredded down. I think when I left Cairo in 2014, I remember looking and saying, okay, you know this really well now, and you can share it with others. And it was all crumbly, and I got rid of the paper.
You probably
But
held it in your hand a lot.
yeah, well, I had it in my wallet, right? So yeah, and that's where a stranger or someone you just don't know well can really have a positive impact on your life using words of wisdom, right? And it really helped me a lot. And in fact, recently, a friend of mine was going through a situation, and I wrote this on a piece of paper for her, and I gave it.
Yes, nice.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Words that
Good deal.
heal.
Yes.
Yeah,
Words that heal.
yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, here's this beautiful American woman who actually was married to a Kuwaiti. Okay, so she might have been Christian. That was one thing that I really was surprised by when I first went to Kuwait, is how many American and British teachers were married to Kuwaitis. So you had Christians and Muslims married. Right? People, you don't think about that, right? You think of them as, being on opposing sides kind of thing, right? But yeah, and I'm sure, I don't know if she wrote those words herself or someone had given those words to her and she needed them to help her through difficult situations.
Will love conquer all religion?
Pardon me?
Will love conquer all religion?
Oh, I think so. I think it does, right? One of them was an American teacher. No, she was an American that worked for the American embassy there, and she was married to a Kuwaiti, and they had a great relationship. Like he would go off to the mosque, on a Friday, and she'd go off to her church on a Sunday. They had a wonderful relationship. They had children and that. It worked really well for them.
That's good.
Yeah, there you go.
My mom was a pseudo-Christian. My dad was an atheist.
Ah,
And they got along just
did they?
fine because they didn't get into that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't have to be a priority in their mind and what they were thinking at all times. I know mom was a heavy duty Catholic, but people loved her, and she was quite tolerant of people too. I mean, we grew up in army camps and places all around Canada, but we were always taught to accept other people. It doesn't matter who you are. That was part of our household thing. You'd bring somebody home who was Black or Indian or whatever, just because they were friends at school, and it was okay. That was nice.
Yeah. So any other words? Dave, do you have any other?
Well, what about
Kenny?
Brent and Kenny?
Yeah, Ken?
I finally, one of my favorites is a biblical quote by Jesus. Matthew 7, verse 7. He says, ask and it shall be answered, seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened. What Jesus is doing there is instructing his disciples on how he wants them to use their mind, to have an inquiring mind, an inquisitive mind, look around, be curious, ask questions, seek answers, seek wisdom, seek God, seek whatever. Knock on doors, that's my favorite because it means you're going to ask different people. You're going to ask people that you wouldn't. So there's a lot of bigots in religion, and they only want to stick with my own kind.
Mhm.
Well, that's not what Jesus said to do. He said, knock on the doors, find out, ask different questions. So for me, that's my motto of my life.
Hmm.
Just the assumption is I don't know. I can hear a lot of things and learn a lot of things, but does it have to be the only thing? So I just lean back on Jesus' wise words.
That's one of the best quotes in the whole Bible, I think, that I'm
It
I'm
is,
aware
yeah.
of. I remember there was one time when I listened to that and I was in the right mood, and I got like an explosion inside from it. It was an incredible feeling because his basically was saying, you know, there will be a response or an answer to you if you're truly, honestly seeking for that. Whatever, you know, if you're seeking truth, you will find it. So it was extremely comforting at the time.
It comes from Matthew, and Matthew is the disciple who went into Egypt and founded the Coptic Christian approach to Christianity. And I thought, wow, the more I learn about this guy Matthew, the more I think, like, the whole thing goes, especially Matthew 7. There's a lot of wisdom in that. And what I was told this once by a very sincere old lady. She was even older then than I am now. So she pointed out that the number 7 was a special number for the ancient ones, that they somehow thought it had magic powers or something. And if you're into numerology, then 7 is a big number. And so he put his most important wisdom at Matthew 7, verse 7, which is the one I just quoted. But then there's huge amounts of wisdom in Matthew 7, all the before that and after that. So if you just want to get a condensed version of the wisdom of Christianity, check Matthew 7. It's fabulous.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to know.
Cool.
Brent, do you have something you'd like to share?
Yeah, I got some quotes.
Sure.
So I'll say one of these things, and if it stimulates conversation, fine. If it doesn't, fine. I've got a bunch of these, so I'm not going to read them all at once, but here's a few of them. Life is like a 10-speed bike. Most of us have gears we never use.
That's a wise soul. That's excellent.
Who said that? Do you know?
Charles Schultz.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like something he'd say.
Yeah, it has that you know, connection to riding bikes and almost, you know, childlike learning. But
Mhm.
that's great. So true
Yeah.
too. You know, I mean, we don't, so many of us are, yeah, just keeping it going in second gear, and we're fine with that, but we're not using our capacity.
I went online to look for, you know, funny and astute quotes, and so I probably looked at like 150 or 200 of them, and then the best ones I thought were the great I saved. Here's another one. I will not let anyone walk through my mind with their dirty feet.
Oh,
Gandhi said that.
Ah,
Ah,
Talkers are usually more articulate than doers, since talk is their specialty.
Yeah,
That's Thomas Sowell. I don't know who he is.
okay.
The truth can be funny, but it's not funny to cover up the truth.
Mm.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, gotta like that one. Who
I actually, seeing that you just said that,
who was it
this-
though?
can I just add to that, Brent? This
Yeah,
is
sure.
what Oscar Wilde said. If you want to tell people the truth, make them laugh, otherwise they'll kill you.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is Ryan Cooper, whoever he is, said that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, here's another one. They are ill discoverers that think there is no land when they see nothing but sea.
Mhm.
So if all everybody sees is what they see, one thing, then they're not going to be true discoverers, and they may think that there is no land simply because all they can see is ocean,
Yeah,
right? So
Yeah.
that's plays out in all kinds of ways in the way people think about themselves in life, and
yeah.
you know,
And perception, right?
yeah,
I mean, there are those that feel that we only see a certain part of reality when there's a lot going on around us that we just can't see.
yep,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Okay, we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that one. I've heard that. That's a nice one.
I have trouble remembering that one.
Yeah, yeah, right. He's an expert on that one.
If you dig a grave for others, you may fall into it yourself.
That's
Yes.
a great one.
That
Yeah.
is a good one.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
an Irish proverb.
Ah,
Ah,
uh-huh.
Some people die at 25 and aren't buried until they are 75.
Mm.
Mhm.
yes.
That's great.
Nice
There are a
information.
lot of people that stop at a certain part, living their life, really. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was Benjamin Franklin.
Ah,
Ties in with Di's first one about learning.
yes.
Stop learning,
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah.
Dead.
I don't think God put you on this earth just to make millions of dollars and ignore everything else.
Yes. Here's one by Art Buchwald. The best things in life aren't things.
Ooh.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Sneaks up on you.
Brent,
Yeah.
do you have some more?
Yeah. People are like tea bags. We don't know our true strength until we are in hot water.
That is so true.
That's a good one.
That's Eleanor Roosevelt. I changed it. She actually said women are like tea bags.
Yeah.
So I thought I would expand it a little bit.
Thank you.
Here's an Italian proverb. At the end of the game, the king and the pawn go back into the same box.
Ooh,
Yeah.
nice one.
Mhm.
Yeah. If you think you are too small to be effective, you have never been in bed with a mosquito.
Right on.
That was Bet Reese.
Ah,
Everyone has an invisible sign hanging from his neck saying, "Make me feel important." Never forget this when working with people. This is, isn't that
do you think that's really who wrote that?
Mary Kay Ash?
Yeah.
Is that the Mary Kay?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really true. I mean, when you think about it, everybody wants to be acknowledged as a viable human being, and when people don't acknowledge that because they're stuck up or they don't care or whatever, and that always makes people feel funny. We've all got egos,
Yeah.
So I think the point of this is everyone wants to be seen as important as anybody else, but not all of us feel that way all the time. So if you just keep that in mind and you're really respectful and assume that everybody is worthy. And if you just act that way,
Mhm.
then everybody's going to feel that way right off the bat.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of that motivational speaker that used to say, remember people's names, right? Because it's,
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
who was that?
Reminded what Brent was saying there reminded me of him. Power of positive thinking, right? Is that
Yeah.
Yeah.
the-
Norman Vincent Peale or one of
That's
those
who it
people.
is. Yeah. Yeah, he very much had that thing that you treat people with respect and that, but they do have that sense of importance to themselves, right? So when their name is important to them, right? So
yeah. Was that the same as how to be successful and influence people or something? Is that the same author with that?
I don't know.
Someone
That
like that.
ring a bell for anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was part of the course was really pay attention to people, acknowledge them, pay attention to their name. And but yeah, but the other, like that quote of yours, Brent, we have our sign too, right? So when you are reflecting that, you know, but everybody else has their sign. Acknowledge you have a sign, but everybody else has a sign also. So in a way, it cautions you to not get carried away with trying to get your recognition,
Hmm.
but realize you do need it too. Yeah.
Someone, I forget who it was, said, when you meet someone and you're introduced to someone, always say their name back to them. In other words, instead of "Hi, how are you?" it's like, "Hi, Joe, how are you?"
Yeah.
By doing that, you turn them on in a certain way. And whenever somebody's done that to me, it like turns something on inside me, and I feel good about that person. And so that's a really good way. If it's sincere, I think that's a really good way to
Yeah.
meet somebody.
Yeah, you're right, because it has to be sincere. Otherwise, it's just the salesman tactic, right?
Right.
This is,
Yeah,
oh,
go ahead.
okay, this one by Marianne Williamson, the writer. We are not held back by the love we didn't receive in the past, but by the love we're not extending in the present.
Yeah, she's a big Course in Miracles person.
Yes, that's right. And the other ones?
Yeah. You may not realize it when it happens, but a kick in the teeth may be the best thing in the world for you.
That's right. When you reflect on it later.
That's Walt Disney.
Is it?
Yeah, the last person I would have thought that would have said something like that.
Yeah. Wow.
Do you have another one?
Shanti Diva or Deva?
Shanti Diva, yeah.
All the happiness there is in the world arises from wishing others to be happy. All the suffering there is in the world arises from wishing oneself to be happy.
Hmm.
Brent, do you have any more?
Sure. Life is the movie you see through your own eyes. It makes little difference what's happening out there. It's how you take it that counts.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess again, that goes back to our perception of things and how we react to that perception.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Who was that?
Dennis Waitley.
Oh. It'd be nice to even post these, underneath the video afterwards if people want to look at these.
I'll send you these if you want to put them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or I can put it in chat too, I suppose.
yeah, because I saved the chat as well,
Okay.
and so okay.
Right. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe.
Mm.
Anybody guess who that is?
Robert Frost.
Abraham Lincoln.
Oh,
Oh.
of course.
Okay.
Well, no, it was George Washington who chopped down the cherry tree.
Oh, that's
Sorry.
right. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Sorry.
right.
Oh, but yeah, that's
Okay. Here's one from Aristotle. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all.
Mm.
Not too many people know how to educate the heart, unfortunately.
Brent, any more?
Yeah.
Kenny, anyone? Yeah, Brett?
Man does not control his own fate. The women in his life do that for him.
This is true, right, Dave?
That's Groucho Marx.
Yeah.
So, like,
Kind of figures, doesn't
it
it?
figures, yeah. Oh, I didn't write down who said this, but it's excellence is never an accident. It is always the result of high intention, sincere effort, and intelligent execution. It represents the wise choice of many alternatives. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. I think that might have been Aristotle as well. Yeah, I think so, because I have a whole grouping of his, so it must have been his. Okay.
Coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous.
I love that.
Yeah, really, really intelligent. So it's got to be somebody like Albert Einstein, doesn't it?
Ah,
Mm.
okay.
I never heard that before until I read it, and it is absolutely superbly astute. It's
Yeah,
just
very much
beautiful,
so.
beautiful.
I had a teacher once who used to distinguish between the types of coincidence. He said there's meaningful coincidence and then just coincidence. So it plays right into the God being anonymous. Those are the meaningful ones. The other ones, just a coincidence. And it's not that easy to tell one from the other. That's the problem.
There may not be any real difference. We don't really know. But what looks like something that's not
Insignificant.
that,
could be.
yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes we discover later is.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really good quote. And here's another Aristotle. He who has overcome his fears will truly be free.
Good luck with that.
Yay.
Okay, Brandy, more?
The gift of fantasy has meant more to me than my talent for absorbing positive knowledge. Albert Einstein again.
And here's Aristotle again. Whosoever is delighted in solitude is either a wild beast or a god.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ah,
I remember
Oh.
reading that when I was looking for these. Yeah.
Ah,
oh, yeah, I found one from a very ancient source. This goes back a long time. Was you can't always get what you want. If you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. Very old.
yeah, that's really old. Like 1960s?
Yeah, at least maybe the latter part,
Yeah. Around the 1960s, I believe also,
Yeah.
yes.
late 60s, mid to late 60s. Well, yeah, had to be. Yeah.
Any more?
By three methods we may learn wisdom. First, by reflection, which is the noblest. Second, by imitation, which is the easiest. And third, by experience, which is the bitterest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the hard-
Confucius.
Ah.
Oh, Confucius.
Yes.
That's the hard one, is the experience, but that's a
Here's one from Plato. The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself. To be conquered by yourself is of all things more shameful and vile.
Say that again?
yes. Yeah, run that one.
Come on, you Plato guys, you should get it.
Yeah.
The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself.
That we get.
To be conquered by yourself is of all things most shameful and vile, right? So you conquer that self rather than letting it take over you, is what he's saying.
Oh, to be I see. You conquer the self. Yeah.
Okay, you guys all flunk at Plato. I'm kidding.
Who?
Anyway,
Real knowledge is to know the extent of one's ignorance.
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Oh, there's a
Yeah. Love that one. It's
Yeah, that's a good one.
that's my version of it. Is the only thing I really know is that I know nothing.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's Confucius again, of course.
Oh,
Oh, what other ones, Brent? You have
Okay,
more of his, or?
yeah, I do. I do.
Okay.
If I am walking with two other men, each of them will serve as my teacher. I will pick out the good points of the one and imitate them, and the bad points of the other and correct them in myself.
mm,
Mm.
mm.
So that is because you recognize the good and the bad. Is that right?
Well, you understand that the way I interpret it is you understand the bad points as something in yourself when you see them in someone else,
Yes.
because you're calling them bad, and so you've got to correct them in yourself so you won't see other people with them and judge them for it.
Yeah.
Because it's our judgments on what we see that it's our feeling of good and bad that is the way things are in the world. I mean, we make that judgment, but the bad things are things that we need to look at, because why is anything bad?
Yeah.
I mean, really, in fact, that's what Genesis says about breaking the world up into good and bad. The tree of knowledge, don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because good and evil are the appearances in mind. And
Duality. Yeah.
there is no real bad. It's just something that needs attention.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at
But
it.
also, even obviously the person recognizes good, right?
Sure,
So
yeah.
they go, it's good, and I want to do that.
Yeah, let
So
me
they model it, right?
I'll read the whole thing again.
Yes.
If I am walking with two other men, each of them will serve as my teacher. I will pick out the good points of the one and imitate them, and the bad points of the other and correct them in myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's straight
would-
out of Buddha's handbook.
Yeah, I would change that just a little bit, because I will pick out the good points of the one. I would just say I will pick out the good points from them, and I'll pick out the bad points from them and correct them in myself, rather than attribute good points to one person and bad points to another.
But could it be that they're not real people, but two sides of that person?
Yeah.
That's another way to look at it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
You only need one person, actually.
That's
Mm.
You don't need two.
Yeah.
so. Here's Carl Jung, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Right.
Yep.
And that reminded me of Jesus, right? The kingdom is within.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Just that's all you need in life. What you just said is the only thing you really need in life. Once you got that you're home free.
Mm-hmm.
If you look into your own heart, gee, what do we see here? And you find nothing wrong there, what is there to worry about? What is there to fear?
Yes.
Mhm.
And who?
That's Confucius.
That's
The
confusion.
rest of these are all Confucius.
Are they? Okay. Yeah.
You got another one?
I do. Arthur Schopenhauer. Every man takes the limits of his own field of vision for the limits of the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perception again.
Yes.
Okay.
I got one.
Oh.
The road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom.
Eventually.
What was that one again?
The road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom.
Eventually.
Yeah. You will learn how much is too much, and you will also learn your limitations, like the excess will, eventually, like Brent said, eventually you'll hit that wall and it will define you, and you will learn something of yourself. You will become wise to it.
If you're lucky in one lifetime, if
Yeah.
you're that enthralled
Yeah.
with the first part,
Yeah.
because it could take a while.
Yeah. You
If
keep
you-
doing it over and over again too.
Yeah.
But that was William Blake.
Oh,
If you are the smartest person in the room, then you are in the wrong room.
who was that?
Confucius.
Really? Wow.
That reminds me of another quote. If you're playing poker and you've been playing for a while and you don't know who the sucker is, it's you. And that was Paul Newman.
Or if it's free, you're the product.
Yeah, that's, yeah,
Yeah,
so true, so true.
Yeah, especially with
Yeah.
software.
Yep, especially now, all that software / spyware, algorithms. It's why our smart devices are watching us.
Wherever you go, go with all your heart.
oh,
Mhm.
oh, what's the line from that movie, Dave? Wherever you go, there you are.
Oh, yeah.
What movie's that?
Buckaroo Banzai and the fourth
No, but I
dimension.
like the Brent's
Yeah,
I wrote. That's a
yeah.
good.
Wherever you go to.
Mm-hmm.
This is the last one I have. The object of the superior man is truth.
Yeah. Yes, I have Archibald MacLeish. The dissenter is every human being at those moments of his life when he resigns momentarily from the herd and thinks for himself.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm.
Like that is, that thinking from yourself often leads to truth, right? So
Mhm.
that was my last one too, Brent. So,
Wow.
but these
Wow.
are great. Like it's really fun to,
Mhm.
very expansive to listen to these quotes, right?
Well, I'm trying to put it. Every single thing that we read, some of those were all. If you just got that, you would change
Exactly.
your whole life.
Yeah.
It's just,
You missed the one I did from T.H. White, The Once and Future King. But again, there's a lot in that. And what I did, Brent, is I posted it by my computer in my apartment in Kuwait when I was just learning or just beginning as a teacher, right? But it really had a good impact on me. Another thing a friend of mine did before I left, she had one of those motivational calendars, and they'd have fantastic pictures, say like an eagle soaring in the sky, there's mountains in the background and, reaching great heights and like slogans like that on it. And it was an old calendar and she had kept all those pictures and she gave them to me before I went away. And I had them by my computer. I had them in the classroom and all that. So those sayings, those quotes, or those inspirational thoughts are great things to keep around us, right? Sometimes we forget about those, and then it is handy to have them around us.
I've got this book that I
Diana?
didn't look at that I'm just remembering right now. And let me just go get it. There'll be a bunch
Okay.
of things in there.
Yeah. Barry?
Could I ask you a question, Diane? When you were in Kuwait, when you were teaching in an Arab world and admittedly didn't know a lot of the language, was it difficult to compare yourself as a teacher who was well respected because of her valuable English skills, and yet when you went out into the community, you suddenly switched into someone who wasn't as adept or as not put up on a pedestal, but you had to sort of become humble in the fact you didn't know the way of life. That must have been quite an interesting juxtaposition to go from one to the other. I just think of, I've never done it, but I'm just thinking of what you would be feeling at that time. At one time you're a plus, and 2 hours later when you go out shopping, you're a minus.
Not necessarily.
Ah,
Because teachers were, well respected, whether you're in Cairo or Kuwait. You were now Kuwaitis, the really rich Kuwaitis, of course, you're just a servant to them, so to speak. But your taxi drivers and all these were from, places like Pakistan and all that. So, and you also had people from the Philippines working there. So, yeah, you were well respected. I had a cleaner and also a cook from Sri Lanka. And they were very respectful of foreign teachers, right? Because we made, a really good salary and we could, pay them really well. Yeah, it's a different type of lifestyle, a certain type of freedom in having an international lifestyle because you don't have all the responsibilities and the burdens you have when you're in your own culture, right? The fact that I could, pay people to clean and to cook or, pay a taxi driver. Well, mind you, in Kuwait, I eventually did lease a car. And I drove there because I didn't trust the drivers, right? And I thought, okay, if I'm going to die on the roads in Kuwait, I want to be driving. So, But anyway, okay, Brent.
Okay, this comes out of this book here.
Oh, go for it.
For it.
Yeah, somebody gave me this a long time ago. Be not afraid of going slowly. Be only afraid of standing still.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
And you know what, Brent? A lot of people do that, right? They spend their lives watching game shows and soap operas, and they've lost some motivation in life, especially as they get older, right? They lose some motivation there. I think it is important to move along, even if it's slow.
Have you had enough of bread and circus yet? Let me know when you do.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay, Brent.
Okay, do something. Either lead, follow, or get out of the way. That's Ted Turner.
Ah, wow.
Any more, Kenny?
I'm just wondering, I think I'm going to issue a challenge to the four of you
Oh,
to come up with your own, an original.
Yes, that's actually a good one. I'm sure I've written some wise words. Out in the
I got one.
Okay,
Go
Dave.
for it.
Nobody understands koans. Give it up.
That is terrible advice. Absolutely terrible.
I know it is. Sorry about that.
There's got to be at least one of those you understand.
How about this?
Oh.
Oh.
No, I'm sure. Yeah, I've engaged with koans, and I think that's the best it is for me. It definitely gets me thinking, and it creates a feeling in my mind, or I think just that grasping and that reaching for it is a good part of the process. And I'm sure there are. I'm sure. Like, I was kidding, of course. And at some point, I've encountered koans more often than not, but I don't really seek them out. Kind of like haikus. But anyway, but I like the challenge. I like that challenge.
Yeah. I don't know if someone else has written this, but it just popped in my mind now. I know that I don't know that I know.
All that I know. See, that's a koan.
But you know that.
Yeah.
You know that.
I know that
I know that.
What you just said.
I know that
I
You
know
know
that.
that.
I know that I don't know. Or it could be I know that I know something, but I don't know the full extent of that something.
And you know that.
And you know that.
And I know that. Yes. I do
Yeah,
know that.
that's a
There
no.
you go.
Now I got that.
Yeah.
There's always this thing that's in the background that's the part of us, that eye of consciousness or whatever it is, that's back there. We forget, we get all identified up here, but that's always back there.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you're not expecting us to come up with it on the spot, Ken. We'll just
They say you can't do it, but remember, that doesn't always work.
That's right. Sometimes you can do it.
That one I like, yeah.
Here's an accompanying picture that goes along with that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right on.
Awesome.
A lot of neat pictures from the 20s and the 30s.
Yeah. And actually, Brent, that relates to my one about sitting for 90 minutes in meditation, right? I didn't think I could do it, and I did.
This is a cool picture.
Yeah.
Okay, and the saying is, the aim of living is life itself.
Yeah.
I've heard different people say that, including Schultz.
Mm-hmm.
He had a different wording, but
Yeah.
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 Samuel Beckett, ever tried, ever failed, no matter. Try again, fail better.
oh, I just thought of another one.
Oh.
Right.
Ken?
I have three here, and these are original, but you know how your mind works. It could have come from somewhere, I just don't remember. But this one I've said in quite a few of my writings. Things are not as they appear. Your champagne glass is full of beer. That's a Kennyism. And the other one was short and sweet, stay connected.
Ah,
Now, often I've advised people something I've personally done, but I can't remember the words, the exact words, but it's something like the reason you're frustrated is because you haven't failed enough.
Mm.
So the failure is something good. Just we have this backwards way of looking at failure. We think it's bad.
yes,
Mm.
yes.
Another way of saying
And you know what? There are people that get really depressed when they've had that first failure, right?
Yeah,
Because
that's
it's too much
amazing.
for them, especially if they have it later in life. Yes.
I guess if you only have one failure, you got to be pretty depressed about that. That's you need to have 20, 30 a day. Now you're living. Because if you have 20 failures, you're going to have at least one success.
And you're really trying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine how strong you get.
Mm. I used to be a windsurfer, and one of the things saying that was going around in this windsurfing circuit was, if you're not falling, you're not trying.
I tried windsurfing and I could not get up on that thing. So I guess I wasn't failing enough.
There's some interesting ones from Casey Stengel.
Oh,
You guys know who he is, right?
yeah.
He had he had an interesting sense of humor, really interesting. So here's one. The secret of successful managing is to keep the 5 guys who hate you away from the 4 guys who haven't made up their minds.
That's a good one.
The trick is growing up without growing old.
Yeah.
There comes a time in every man's life, and I've had plenty of them.
Ooh.
Never make predictions, especially about the future.
I've heard that one attributed to Yogi Berra too. So there must be a whole baseball culture there.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
very philosophical.
yeah. Managing is getting paid for home runs that somebody else hits.
Yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
Most ball games are lost, not won.
Mm.
Being with a woman all night never hurt no professional baseball player. It's staying up all night looking for a woman that does him in. It's wonderful to meet so many friends that I didn't used to like. I could go on and on. He's incredible.
My favorite from Yogi Berra was, "It ain't over till it's over."
It ain't over till ain't over till it's over. It ain't over till the fat lady sings.
You know, I just realized that Casey Stengel came to mind, and I was thinking he was the guy behind all those, and I was lucky to find out online just now a bunch of his sayings, but it was Yogi Berra I had in mind that I was looking for, but I didn't have the name right.
Yeah, his are
Yogi Berra, yeah, he's got some great lines.
Yeah.
The game isn't over till it's over. Yeah. Because people leave the ballpark, you know, before the game's over, and we give up too soon sometimes.
I'd like to share one of Barry's other poems. Barry, it's Nothing Left to Say. Nothing left to say. Do you ever feel your pen has dried up and you have nothing left to say? Not that you've said everything it takes, just that you cannot find another way to tell what you believe in, way down deep in your very soul, that part of you that is most true, one that only you would know. It's never very easy to shape the thoughts and words that say who you've been and ever will be and plan to always stay. I like that, Barry.
Yeah, I got a lot of hits on that one. That was good.
Yeah, that is a nice one. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anything else? Any other words of wisdom?
I'm looking for a poem I wrote called Long Before All This.
Yeah, I think it's a Scottish proverb. You can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear.
Oh, that's right. He's been bringing that up a lot. Another one that Dave has on the refrigerator door, by the way, is be the kind of person your dog thinks you are.
Ooh, good. Doggy wisdom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, you know
yeah.
what? I think there's a lot of gullible dogs out there.
I don't think I'm gonna get there. My dogs they were something else.
But if you do have poems, Kenny, I know you have some on your website and, Barry as well, one or two other poems, I can add them, to, even if I cut and paste them and put them at the end with music, right? So people can look at them. These are things to keep in mind.
Let me see if I can find some right here.
Yes. Did you find it, Brett?
No.
Brent, that's what I was just saying to everyone, because if you have something you'd like to share, I can add it to music. Either I read it or you can read it and send it to me, whatever, or I can just put it up for people to read. So yeah, there's always ways of dealing with that. And I'm just working on a few other things with the Expanding Your Consciousness YouTube channel, and that is to redo that music one because it looks like Rumble isn't, keeping it up anymore. So I'll just have to add it, make a few changes to things, but I don't mind adding things. If there's other things you want to add to some of the videos, I can always do that. Yeah.
Oh.
Dave?
I got a bunch of Yogi Berra quotes here.
Good.
When you come to a fork in the road, take it. You can observe a lot by just watching. Okay. It's like deja vu all over again. Baseball is 90% mental and the other half is physical. We made too many wrong mistakes. Congratulations. I knew the record would stand until it was broken. Okay. You better cut the pizza in 4 pieces because I'm not hungry enough to eat 6.
So Ken, did you
Okay, I got one more.
Okay, all right.
The future ain't what it used to be.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Oh, there's actually one that Dave made up, and that is we're going to have a spontaneous moment at 2 p.m. on Sunday. Anyway.
Yeah, that kind of a mind is in another dimension.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Dave for sure is there. Okay, Kenny, did you find yours?
So 2 days ago was my father's 100th birthday.
Oh.
And if he'd been alive, he'd be 100 years old. So I'm going to read this in his honor. This is his poem.
Oh.
What a wonderful bird is the pelican. His beak can hold more than his belly can. And I don't know just how the hell he can. My father's wisdom.
I've heard that the first couple lines before, but that last line never was there. The version I heard.
Oh, okay.
That's
So he
good.
didn't write it. Or maybe he's more famous than I had thought. Wow.
Maybe.
I have a corny one here.
Yeah.
You're in the mood for a little humor. Let me just get backed out because this one describes I had an old girlfriend. Oh yeah. So I had this girlfriend named Brigitte, and she and I used to argue about free choice. So here's a poem I wrote her. I chose to be happy, so why am I sad? I chose to be good, but turned out to be bad. I chose to be rich, so why am I poor? I chose being witty, but I'm still a boor. The notion of free choice is for the naive. for Egypts and rock stars and those who believe. Choosing is easy. Choosing is fun. Getting your choices is what won't get done. I chose to marry sweet, fiery Brigitte. Her no broke my heart. Now I drink margaritas. I toast to my sorrow in a clear voice, imbibing tequila as my drink of choice.
Yay.
That's a great
I'm glad you, I
poem.
remember you read that before, and that's a good one, Chad.
Super great
That's super.
poem.
Yeah, that is a good one. Yeah.
What was your attitude after you wrote that?
Well, she loved it. You know, I look back at that woman and she was a dance instructor. I was one of her students. And, you know, she was one of those women who needed a strong, assertive man who would dominate her. And that ain't me, babe. So I thought, well, I gotta learn domination.
Okay, you have to write a poem about that.
Oh, yeah. She needed a dom, but instead she got me. I wonder what under the tree. I don't know.
Anyway.
Isn't it amazing? Like, if you ever seen those guys rap like spontaneously, like YouTube's full of it. It's incredible that they find rhymes so quickly. There's something going on in their minds that they figured out how to do. So they just start talking, and the rhymes just keep coming, and it's just like happening right there in the moment.
It is
It's
amazing,
incredible.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I can do it, but I have to do it slow. And some of those guys are.
Yeah,
I
like
met a little kid once, and he was doing it, and I thought, wow. And he was playing with me. He was having fun because I would respond, and I can do Shakespeare like that in iambic pentameter, and he liked that, and then I liked his rap. It was great.
Yeah.
See if I can find another one while you're going.
Life is a succession of moments. To live each one is to succeed.
Mm. So
Keep
being
trying.
in the moment, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and taking advantage of every possible thing that
Yeah.
you can take advantage of.
Yes.
Woody Allen, 80% of success is showing up.
Yeah, for sure.
That was my philosophy in the martial arts, because I trained as an old man, and my philosophy was, if I just show up, I'm going to learn this. And attendance was my biggest thing.
Keeps coming back.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get injured a lot in that, and so you just work through the injuries and carry on. It was
Yeah.
cool. I got one here, but I might have read this one before too. I'm giving you the sort of humorous ones. In China, there lived a very wise man. His name was someone who. His job is to do, whenever he can, whatever someone should do.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
If at first you don't succeed, you're doing about average.
Oh, yeah.
I like that one.
Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yes, I know.
that's-
A lot of people
So
go
I
through
used to
that.
think that was Conan the Barbarian or Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Mhm.
but I just found out maybe last week it was Nietzsche.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
He said that?
Apparently so. That's
This one says Marlon Brando. Well, Nietzsche was
Oh.
before Marlon Brando.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have a serious one here if you're in the mood for one of them.
Okay, I'll go after you. I got a four-liner or four stanza here.
Go for it.
Okay. Barry, you go first, and Kenny.
Okay, it's called Second Thought. You don't know how frail you are until you start getting old, as those things you always took for granted are no longer in your control. And no, not an easy thing to all of a sudden admit, as there comes a time when needed for you to get over it, to accept that where you are in life is at the end of your years, and although difficult to swallow, finding a way to get past your fears. Not an easy thing for most, I'd say, and I include myself in that lot, as I hope to live as long as I may without giving it much of a second thought.
Yeah.
That's good, Bear. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Barry.
Kenny?
Okay, this one is a translation of a poem by Saint John of the Cross. He was a Spanish mystic, and it was written in Spanish. And when he wrote it, he was called before the Inquisition. So and later on, he became a saint. So you can imagine what. So anyway, this was his take. Dark night of blessings from within, my mind now still and light, on fire with yearning love, my soul emerged into the night. Hidden safely in the dark, peace came over my affairs. Masked safely by the dark, I climbed the secret stairs. In secret I rose on that joyous night. Seen by no human, I climbed without light. I saw not a thing, there was no one to guide me except for that flame that kept burning inside me. More surely than the light of noon, this burning flame led me to where he was awaiting. I knew well who was waiting. In this place no one is seen. O joyous night that guided me, more lovely than the dawn. Dark night that soon united me, loved and beloved into one. Upon my flowery breast, reserved solely for him, my sleeping lover I caressed, his breath became the wind. From high above his warm breath fanned as I caressed his hair. He touched my throat with gentle hand, my sense no longer there. Suspended and lost in oblivion's breath, my cheek on my lover's face. Forgetting my life, I abandoned myself to the lily-like scent of his grace. If you're
Did you say that was yours?
No, I translated it from, it was translated by somebody named Alison Piers, and her translation had no beat and no rhyme. And actually, she kind of missed the point. There's a very emotional, he was experiencing Jesus as his religion knew it. And it was not the dogmatic religion. This guy was a mystic and a Bible scholar. So you can see with the parts where he was talking about his lover's chest and all this, they would have thought he was gay. And that was not very good for a priest to be gay. And the Spanish Inquisition was on your tail. But of course, what it is he's uniting with his beloved, his God. And that experience of uniting with God is what the mystics go for. So all I did was rewrite her translation. And it took me 4 years to do this one.
Wow.
Yeah, it was,
Oh,
anyway, so because most people don't recognize the mystic element of Catholicism. It's because they never, it's hardly ever talked about. It's mostly dogmatic.
Yes.
When you get into the mystic, this is what you do. You're trying to unite. It's like in Buddhism, you're trying to transform your mind into a Buddha mind. Well, in Christianity, you're trying to unite with God, and like Jesus did. And he's referring to meditative experiences, like climbing the secret stairs means he's going up into a meditative state. When I read this, even in the awkward translation, it was inspirational. So I just kept at it here. I'm working on some Rumi now, but Rumi is, I just don't have time to do it. It's fabulous. And he too was a mystic.
Yes,
mhm.
that's right. Yeah. So any other words that people would like to share? We're just down to the last few minutes.
I got two stanzas if you want to do it quick.
Sure, Barry.
You guys, it's okay. This is called just to be. Chasing down a thought, a good one, and putting it down in words is the ultimate that we can do, as to share what we think in words. And that can be a gift quite precious if you're just willing to see that which nests in a man's soul and how he knows to be. As just a short one.
I need another
Thank-
one. Could you read that one again? I got to get it.
Are you guys okay?
Yeah,
Barry, you want to read it again?
Here goes. To be chasing down a thought, a good one, and putting it down in words is the ultimate that we can do, as to share what we think in words. And that can be a gift, quite precious, if you're just willing to see that which nests in a man's soul and how he knows to be.
That's very deep.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah,
I don't think I sent you that one.
no, I don't recall that one.
I think that's your best one.
That's a
Okay.
really good one. Yeah.
Yeah, that good numbers, yeah.
Yeah.
And Brent, do you have anything you'd like to share for the last few minutes?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
As long as you're going to think anyway, think big.
Whoa. Yeah.
Yes.
Donald
Hey.
Trump.
Donald Trump.
Good one, Donald. He wasn't all evil like they said.
So I just want to suggest this because this is actually a really fun theme too. So if you do want to do this again, we could continue it next week and maybe expand on more excerpts from, wise documents or text, whatever, or we can just, come up with another topic next week. But what do you think?
Oh, I love this. This is great. If we did more research, I'm sure we could
That's what I thought, is
come
if
up
you
with
have
some
time.
real beauties. Although the tonight's was great. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from it. This has been.
And even things like lyrics from music. I mean, Dave, you often do that. When something comes up and you start singing, a certain part of a
Yeah,
song. I mean,
yeah,
things like that, right, are really important to
Yeah.
share.
Phantom of the Opera has some interesting lyrics in it.
Wow.
Does it ever?
Oh,
Same with Jesus Christ Superstar. Those guys were
Oh,
good.
wow.
Yes, you were
Yes.
quoting one, I think, last week or week before, I think, Kenny, from there. So, yeah.
We ought to
Fabulous.
watch that. Have you guys all seen Jesus Christ Superstar?
yeah.
I've seen it several.
I haven't seen it for a long time.
Yeah, I've got it, and every once in a while I'll start looking into it, but not for very long. But I'm amazed every time. I mean, the music is so incredible, and the lyrics are really. So I mean, we could watch that sometime or part of it, and talk about it.
You like, I don't know how to love him. I used to sing that. I don't know how to love.
Oh, that one, yeah.
I love that. I used to sing it all,
Uh,
but it's kind of garbage.
My favorite part is the theme song itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus
Christ.
Christ.
Yeah.
Superstar.
Mine is
Who in the hell? Yeah,
Yeah.
you are.
Judas.
That's what we used to say.
Dave?
Judas, I think Judas had the best performance.
Yeah, he was the star of it, really.
Amazing.
Big meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so next week, let's expand this more, right? And if you have lyrics from songs or anything else that you'd like to share in regards to words of wisdom and let's just carry it on. What do you think?
Sure.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
And so I'm going to finish with one.
Okay.
Okay. When you're finished changing, you're finished.
Another deep one.
Finished changing, you're finished.
There you go.
Good one.
Good night, everyone. Thank you. That was a lot of fun.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye-bye.